Hey there, Michael here. Thanks so much for listening to Third Space Indie. In this episode, I talked to Khaled Khlifi from the Can Theater over in Windsor Park. I had an incredible time talking to him about local film, building a community space, and what it means to sort of consume art by a human. About halfway through the episode, I encountered a technical difficulty. I wrote a little bit about that in the show notes, but there is a noticeable, at least noticeable to me, drop off in audio quality. So I apologize for that. I have been working through that on the production side. Enjoy the episode, and Khaled and I had a wonderful discussion. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy.
My name is Khaled Khlifi. I am the creative and marketing director at the Can Cinema and Restaurant in Indianapolis, Indiana, the heart of Windsor Park, I believe our website says. And yeah, basically we are a small team here. And so creative and marketing director, I direct like 3 other hours of things, but basically I've got the responsibility to make sure everyone in the entire world knows about all the fun events and movies and all sorts of other, special initiatives or partnerships or whatever we've got going on, that they know that it's happening. And so social media channels, our newsletter, and making flyers for other organizations that we have stuff with or things like that. So basically like all the visual identity, all the marketing, all the whatever comes through me here.
So you...
Oh, and I feel fine. I didn't answer it. I'm doing great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day outside, but it's a little cold. But
A little chilly, but it's a little chilly in here too, but that's okay. Keeps us awake, alert.
So you mentioned Windsor Park, and obviously this is a community-focused film place, theater, if you will. So how does Can fit into the community? Like, do you feel like you're serving the neighborhood around, or are you serving the wider Indianapolis? Along those lines.
A little bit of everything. We're really trying to become the neighborhood haunt, like the neighborhood hangout for a lot of people, and it is that for a lot of like really immediate neighbors. We do, our mission is to serve the entire city of Indianapolis, which, as a nonprofit for our cinema, we do a lot of community-focused work, a lot of community-focused screenings and partnerships that do bring those sort of like really local issue-based events or whatever camaraderie together. The only reason that I had a little bit of hesitation for a second there at the beginning was just because we are, just based on like the way that we do things as a nonprofit, we don't have to worry too much about the numbers, like box office numbers for a lot of things. We can get some stuff from some revenue from other areas, some grants and things like that. And that allows us to show a lot of things that no one else in Indianapolis is showing. And we talk about that as like a nonprofit because it is like service in that way. Indianapolis has not gotten these movies before, has not gotten these kinds of things with any sort of real regularity. And so just last year we had, I don't know when people are listening to this, but in 2024 alone, we had like 19 movies that no one else showed here. And those are all like independent, very small budget, very limited release that, again, no one else will pick up because it's not profitable to do that, but it has like a really clear artistic value. So yeah, part of what we want to do is to make Indianapolis a film city, to put it on par with Chicago, New York, LA, and to be able to get the sort of like limited release movies that no one else gets. This one wasn't necessarily a limited release, or it probably shouldn't have been, but we had Night Bitch, which only opened to 100 theaters in the entire country, and we were one of them.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and that's just like a niche enough movie. We were a niche enough theater that like these things sort of come together for us. But we just take a ton of pride in being a place that didn't really exist before. Even with some other art house theaters here, we love them as well. We all know each other. We're all doing the things generally, but like our specific focus on being this community space for the weirdest, wildest, most important conversations that we can possibly have through the lens of film. We've been at it for over 3 years now, and we keep expanding. We keep adding more things that we're doing for that. I can rattle off some examples if that helps too.
Yeah, we can get into that. I think both of my roommates in college they weren't necessarily film majors, but they were deeply involved in student film. And recently I was actually watching a YouTube series where these two guys just traveled across Japan with no tech, like just motorcycle. They're Americans, so they don't really speak good Japanese, and just like from the bottom tip to the northernmost part of Japan.
Yeah. Just like a camera or GoPro or something?
Basically. They had a team following them so they didn't die.
Oh, okay.
And maybe
cowards.
Yeah, cowards, truly.
Come on.
But it reminded me of just like this sort of simpler time of like home video type stuff.
Yeah.
And my roommates in college did a lot of that stuff. They would show me the stuff they filmed. Is Can or you doing anything in Indianapolis to sort of foster up and coming artists, or are you holding like a home video contest or anything?
We love working with local filmmakers. We were founded, like part of our founders, which behind the scenes look, you just met Tom and you met Ed. Sam and Ben are the other two like sort of core founders and board members who got this whole thing running, financed this whole thing. But the two people who really came with the know-how are like local filmmakers themselves, and that's Daniel Jacobson and Dusty Frey. They were running a small pop-up cinema thing in Indianapolis because I don't know, because the sort of films that we show now weren't here. And so they're like, all right, well, how do we get like a Pichapong Virastakun? Like, how do we get his movies here? How do we do it? And so like, all right, well, we'll just do this. It's a really small audience. We can get a small space. We can just figure this out. We really want to be able to see it on a big screen. Those sorts of things. And so both of them are filmmakers themselves, and Daniel still serves as our artistic director. So we do a ton of stuff with local filmmakers. We have a bunch of local film festivals that are here. Plus we have like heavily discounted stuff for getting premieres. We love to do local film premieres. And in fact, one of our concession stand workers, Eli Cohn, has a movie coming up really soon.
If you can't rip it off the top of your head, that's okay.
No, it's called Artificial, and I'm just thinking it actually I think had to get pushed back for a reason. But it was supposed to be like a couple days from now, or the 17th maybe. But so that's getting like moved around a little bit. But we have another one on this Thursday, April 10th, which I imagine this will probably drop after that. But a short film called The Festival, and that's a local filmmaker as well. So he's gonna show some like behind the scenes footage as well as the short film itself. We work with a lot of local artists for those sorts of premieres or to just get stuff up and running to show them. And we're currently working on a few other sort of like filmmaker hangouts and things, because we have wonderful event space and things like that where we can really activate our space and be this sort of hub for those. And the only thing holding us back from doing this is all of our wildest dreams things.
Yes.
for how to do this is just there are only 5 of us here, and we're still building our capacity. We're still really young. We still have a lot of like sort of startup qualities to us. Mm-hmm. So those things are building. We work with a few other things. Like there's Indie Film Fest and the Indianapolis Filmmakers Network are doing this like Pitch Fest thing, and we actually donated some prize money for that for the first, like, so they pitch and they get like $5,000 seed money to make their project for local filmmakers. And there's a local documentary company called Hoodocs who, like, we work with them a ton for a lot of stuff. So we're in the scene. We love, like I said, we want this to be a film city. We want this to like have that same thing where there are all these creatives who can come together and work on all these things. And we want to not only facilitate that, but also host it once it happens, because these are amazing things. These are awesome, beautiful things. And a lot of us, I'm not a filmmaker myself, but we're the sort of founding stuff, but there's some film connection with basically everybody here, whether they've like done small documentaries or you said student films, things like that, or even like having bigger features at like Heartland Film Fest or whatever. We've had sort of all range of people work here and come through and figure it out. So we've got the energy. We just got to get the time.
Yeah, there is only so much time. So you say you're not a filmmaker, but just to pay you compliment, some of the most iconic and important parts of film is the poster. And you're a 2D graphic artist, so don't let yourself down. Someone will seek you out sometime.
I have made some film posters for some people before, but yeah.
So when was Can founded? I'm failing my research.
Oh, good. August 2021.
Oh, so very young.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were supposed to open in like early 2020, and then there's something COVID.
Okay. I was like, what are you getting at? Was there anything in this building prior?
There used to be a church here.
That checks out.
A
I feel
very
like a lot of new businesses are into old churches.
Yeah, it was a defunct church. It hadn't been open for a while, I believe, and then they were gonna just try to convert it, like straight up convert it, but the space couldn't quite work out, so they
Shuffled.
made this instead.
The reason I ask about when you open, because you mentioned we are trying to make this the neighborhood haunt, and the name of this podcast is Third Space Indie. Are you familiar with the concept of a third space?
Yeah.
That is sort of the core driving principle of me coming to speak to you, is that we are sort of missing this place where people can go meet people, make friends, and make a stronger community that they live in. How do you feel like, you talked about the event side, like what you're doing? Do you feel like in the 4 years, little under 4 years, right, that you've been open, that you've had this impact? Can you see visible change or felt appreciation?
For sure. And I think it's, like I said, we're still trying to keep building it, I guess. I mean, in addition to all the design stuff, I'm also the social media manager. So I get to talk to everybody. I get to without putting anybody on blast or sharing names or whatever, people express all the time, like what this place sort of means for them, or like how having a place for a lot of, I don't know, right? Like connection, but also connection about something you love, right? Like we do show some tentpole movies. Like we just had like Mickey 17 or whatever, but like the people who are seeing Mickey 17 with us are seeing it with us because they like the can, right? Like you could go have a very different experience on IMAX, but like it means something to like be able to see a movie like that with the kind of crowd the can has. Yeah, I'm not like trying to tap dance around anything.
It's a difficult question too.
Right, because it's like I've had people tell me about their breakups. Like I'm just like
that's sort of what I think that's
like it's just like we like these people who are in here all the time, and just like you should know that we're no longer together. It's like I haven't actually met this person face to face, and it's just like what, like in some ways strange, but in some ways not, because of the work that we do. Just like in any other thing, right? Like you're not gonna like email like 3M who makes post-it notes, right, to be like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, like I'm going through a rough time right now. But like we do have that thing, even if someone doesn't know my name, like we have a certain position in the world, we have a certain way of going about it that like is incredibly human and is a thing that you don't get from a lot of places. And I don't know, like it's strange being on the sort of front line of that, of that sort of like social dynamic, but it's also like we don't want it another way. We also love all these humans who are coming in to experience like art as art and film as art, and while also showing Monsters Inc. last weekend and showing Die Hard for Christmas and doing like having those sorts of how you would go about watching movies with your friends, right? That's the thing that we want to do here.
I think that's something we just struggle with in general. I struggle to watch television with my wife, so
right.
I want to go watch movies with people I don't know, I think, and just have a good time. And I'll try not to walk into Cinemark and tell the guy about how I lost my job. I'll say it here though. And
who knows, I mean, they might be pretty sympathetic to it, but like they haven't put in the work for that relationship first.
So you were very, obviously this is a sort of art-driven space, the art being film. What do you feel like the impact of art is on a community, on a city, on a country? Maybe if you want to zoom out. That's also a very hard question to throw at you.
Oh gosh, how deep do you want to go on this?
Well, especially right now,
right.
I feel like there's a level of threat to art and artists, even if the people who are proposing that threat are framing it in a way of charity. For people listening, I'm speaking about like artificial intelligence and sort of AI generated images and film. Like, but I think something, personally, my personal opinion is that something is lost in that case. And I'm more so asking like what your opinion is on what that art has on a community.
Yeah. I mean, for my own personal whatever, and because I'm the one who does nearly all the graphic design here, so that's the official Can stance now too, I suppose. But yeah, pretty anti-AI for things. I think film, writing, like any sort of visual arts, any sort of like literary arts, any sort of, I'll say like whatever, physical arts, ballet, performance, anything like that. Like there's only meaning if it is human. I don't know a better way to say that. Like if art is not done by humans, then it is communicating nothing. And I suppose I'll say it a different way, which is that art in quotation marks, created by a computer forecloses the possibility of connection with another human being.
I like that phrasing because you're not eliminating the possibility.
Yeah, that there's like something, you know, for the subject for the observer or something to be able to like look at something. I'm not saying that you don't get any enjoyment out of that, or that there's not something, I don't know, right? Like some endorphin rush or some like serotonin hit or something that might come from that. But that like, I don't know, we drew buffalo on cave paintings for a reason. And it was to tell something about the world, tell someone something about the world or about yourself. That's what it's for. I don't know. Yeah. So it's like there's a reason why B movies are so like weirdly successful, right? Or that we can watch The Room and we can watch whatever because like we get to see someone's entire psyche on screen, and that's
however
like,
broken it may be.
However broken it is, or however like, man, has this guy ever seen a movie before? Does he know how, like, why would you cut to this scene now? Why would you do, you know, like, you can like break all that down on a technical level or whatever, but like the real enjoyment for any of this is like, one, we get to see this guy's, can I curse on here?
Yeah, sure. I haven't thought that deeply about if it's appropriate yet.
Yeah, am I going to get you demonetized?
No,
You
that's okay.
Here's where you insert the bleep. You get to see Tommy Wiseau's ass, but you also get to see the ass of all your friends here who are like experiencing this thing with you, right? There's like something collective about it that like the cold, distant machine can never understand. And so like I would struggle to imagine like what a third space could be if it's not a human space. Like art's increasingly like a thing that we still get to experience together, that is not, especially for places like us that are a nonprofit that like have really like who have really low ticket prices and like a low barrier of entry to come in to do this stuff. Like they're, you know, and I'll say that too for places like, you know, Children's Museum or Newfields or something like that, where they have like neighborhood memberships and things like that for stuff, which we also do as well. Neighborhood, check our website for that map. If you're a neighbor, you get a free membership. But that like art is a really good facilitator of those spaces in a way that like, I don't know how we like organize a society without it.
Yeah.
There's a reason why like fascist regimes start burning books and paintings and like outsider art or whatever as well. And I don't know, like I'm not making any great claims for the subversive qualities of the Can, but like we show a lot of stuff. We've got like, you know, yeah, we show a lot of stuff. That's what I'll say. Like Palestinian documentaries and anti-vax documentaries, anti-rise. Yeah, the anti-rise of like, you know, nationalist forces and stuff like that. Like we show a lot of social issue movies. And yeah, with the general threat right now for that kind of stuff, right? Like I don't know. We are lucky to have felt immune to that for a while, at least. Yeah. Because it's pretty bleak. But art helps. That was a really long answer. I apologize.
No, that was a good answer. To throw in a random diatribe, I do personally struggle with like the idea that art is only human. I struggle because I've had this thought for a long time. Like, if I had a child and my child was like, I'm dating an android, I think it's a different conversation if it's real AI, although I don't think current AI is true artificial intelligence. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I think that's the real disconnect for me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guesswork in that way. So let's maybe recenter and maybe actually before we go to Indianapolis, is my last question about the can specifically is does the word can have like an origin?
Oh yeah. And has everything to do with this too.
Oh really?
Yeah. So the local legend, Kurt Vonnegut Jr., his book Cat's Cradle is where we get the name from. So there is a religion in there called, they're the Bokononism, whatever. Sorry. Bokononism. I'm realizing I've never heard it said out loud. I've just read the book.
We'll pull it up.
Yeah. So they're in this religion. It's like, these texts from this Bokonon guy and whatever. And it's all obviously like fabricated whole cloth and absurd and wonderful in all the ways Vonnegut is. And so the adherents of the religion there's two kinds of ways that people are cosmically linked. And one of those is called a karass, and that's like a true cosmic linkage. Like there's like something, cosmic, spiritual, something that brings people together. Or there's like a grand falloon, which is like a surface level thing, which like he actually does give the example as like someone who he meets someone who the main character meets on a plane is just like, oh my God, we're both Hoosiers. Like, this is amazing. It's just like, well, it's like, I don't know who the hell you are. Like nothing, that doesn't have anything to do with me really, so like that. So the goal of them is to find their karass, and the instrument that brings people together is the can. And so that's what we wanted to be. We wanted to be the place that allows people to form those cosmic linkages. And because we're all film people, film is it for us. Like those are the ways that, I don't know, the grad school friends that I still hang out with, it's because we have a movie club. Like this is the thing that we do together. That's like a way to keep in touch. And so we all have some form or fashion of that and feel like film can be that for us as like an accessible art form that also hits deep.
I'm really glad I asked that question because I think that was perfect. I had never before this moment considered why it was called can.
Yeah, not a dance.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah.
I think that's probably most people's initial thought. So are you from Indianapolis?
I am not.
Where are you from?
I am from Georgia originally.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you get here?
Yeah, so my wife is from Indianapolis. She, grew up here, all that stuff, and went to DePaul, and then went somewhere else for grad school, then went somewhere else for grad school. So she got her PhD at UMass Amherst. I got my MFA in creative writing at UMass Amherst, so we met there. And then I got a job at a foundation in Boston. It was just like giving out money for education initiatives in the region. And we wanted to buy a house and have a child at some point. And that dream felt so far away in Boston. But the
probably is even further now.
Well, yeah, for sure. But the magical land of Indianapolis, we could figure this out. So we moved here 4 days before the governor's stay-at-home order went in place in 2020, March 2020.
That's an impressive time to move.
Yeah. So we're mercifully, my wife has like a lot of connections here, and all of her friends from college like moved back to Indianapolis and stuff. So we had some community here already. Her mom's still in the area. She's got, my folks are in South Carolina now. My brother's in California. The crossroads of America thing for Indianapolis really hits true for us in that way of just being sort of central to everything that we need or want. And actually, when we were moving, I'll say, you're asking about like how art does a space, but that was the reason why Indianapolis like went on our list in general. It's like we'd come back to visit and I'm like, oh gosh, this place is like all the like sanctioned and unsanctioned street art and stuff like that. It just feels like very vibrant. I know, it's like big enough that you get great concerts, you get great music, you get great whatever. And like a lot of just fun stuff comes out of here. So like my wife was surprised that I put it on the list. It was like Indianapolis, like, no, it's got like, it feels like every place that I've been that has like a cool underground sort of art scene that's like thriving or is like, growing and thriving rather. So
do you still feel that way?
Now
that it's been 5 years?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. There's like always a lot of cool stuff going on. Sometimes you have to search for it a little bit. I think it helps working in a place like the Can where like everyone is an artist in some form or fashion.
You have an eclectic group of people and have eclectic interests, and those eclectic interests eventually reach your ears.
20% of the people are in a band. 20% of the people make movies.
Yeah.
That everyone's there's a lot of visual artists here. There's a lot of artists. So yeah, it's like, all those conversations are always front of mind for me because I get to like see all these cool people all the time.
That's awesome. So that is, would you say that sense of, let's call it hidden art or more guerrilla artists or whatever the term you want to use, is that the main driver of you remaining here other than your family that you started?
I mean, the kid helps, that's a helpful thing to keep me in place for now. I don't know, just really like it here. I'll say like coming directly from Boston, but growing up like outside of Atlanta and like smaller towns. Do you know Flowery Branch, Georgia? No one does. The Falcons actually have their training center there now, but it's getting like strip mall-y, but it wasn't when I was there. But that there's like enough like, all right, well, it has all the stuff that I want out of Boston and Indianapolis, but also like the sort of pace and conveniences that I like grew up with in whatever way. Like, no, Indianapolis, has felt like my town in a really
amazing,
wonderful way.
So you don't live in this neighborhood, right? Do you live elsewhere?
I live just south of the fairgrounds.
Okay. Sort of near me, not really.
10 minutes away from the can.
Yeah. I live 20, so there you go. So in your area, like what, Can is sort of like a pillar of this neighborhood. What's going on in your neighborhood? Like, what are you feeling? You've obviously got the fairgrounds, but that's more of a Indianapolis wide influence. What I would consider that midtown Indy or the north-ish side. What's going on up there? Any exciting stuff? You spend a lot of your days here, so maybe it's hard to say. I spend a lot of my days here, and honestly, I pop up to Broad Ripple too. I mean, so all this stuff on 38th has been sort of disinvested for a long time, but some of that's starting to come back. I know. We just got like a coffee shop not too far, like Blue Mind opened up, so it's nice to have like something like that. I don't have any real sense of like the political maneuvering for that stuff, but like, the stuff that's being built around this area, all the housing and stuff hasn't quite made it to 38th yet. That area is an odd thing, and I know that like a lot of that land is like sort of kept a little sparse because of the fairgrounds. Yeah. And all that like surface parking over there. So maybe delve into that. So you've talked about what you really like about the city, the sort of, I'm going to call it hidden art. There's other words for it, and you could probably describe it better, but do you feel like your part of the city that you live in, or just Indianapolis in general, is sort of being neglected, or do you feel like there's a sense of anything going on? Or
a little bit. I mean, there's some cool stuff around there. Like Melody Inn is just down the road from us too, and that's I'm not much of a punk, but punk night there is fun. There's a good park. It feels like it's a matter of time before as like development or whatever is sort of spreading around. But I mean, that's like the only, like Melody Inn's like the only like nightlife thing there. Like there aren't a ton of like restaurants in that area. It's not like a super abundant place. The nearest grocery store is like either 16th Street or like up on Keystone. So it's just like a decent, I'll say a grocery store that's not like Family Dollar or Dollar General or something. And so there's just like a few things need to go right for that to really feel like a more vibrant place. But our neighborhood's like quiet and nice, and there's a little park around there that I love to go. All the neighbors are amazing. They've all been there since like the 70s or 80s. Our house was built in like 1920. And and like everyone's been really excited to have like another kid in it. Like all their kids are gone sort of thing, if they're all like out of the house. And so like, it's an amazing place for that, like as like a home life thing for us.
I think that's powerful.
Yeah, and I've met a lot of like there's like a neighborhood block party every summer that I have met a lot of people, and I've gotten my side hustle, a graphic design gig for stuff, whatever. Like I've met people who are like, oh my gosh, you work at the Can, you do this? Like, do you have time for this? Like that sort of stuff. That's just like, I don't know, it's a super neighborly place, and like the rest of the stuff that feels like a more like walkable, cool community isn't quite there, but it's right in the middle between like all the near east side stuff, all the downtown stuff, and then all the Broad Ripple stuff. Yeah. You're really convenient to all that. Yeah. So we get it in other ways.
Mark Glad, as you guys said, just like Indianapolis is just like too big. To really achieve that sort of stuff, we really have to downsize in a lot of ways, which I agree with.
Would love some more density for sure.
But obviously, I think our bus system has helped sort of alleviate a lot of that. Are you near a bus line?
Yeah.
Okay. You ride the bus here?
Not all the time.
I mean, it's hard. You're on a
hard.
schedule, I bet.
And yeah, dropping my kid off. My kid's school is like is downtown, and so it's like harder to like maneuver that. There are days that it would be more convenient, and then it's just like, if I need to drop him off, you'd love to take the bus. So far, no.
Well, hopefully we can get to a point where it doesn't take 2 hours. Is there anything else you want to like speak on that to your, just from your own personal preference? Do you want to talk more about Can? Is there something in Indianapolis you feel? Is there just something in your heart that you want to share?
Yeah, I guess just the thing I'd say is like, it takes a little bit of work. Like third space stuff takes work, and it's work on both ends, both like having the places to allow people in, as well as like community doing it. And I feel like we have been building a really dedicated community here. I don't know if the Can might not be for everybody, so just find this space that like works for you. Like it feels cheap and easy or something, but like being with people is the start. Then organization can happen, and then like change can happen. But it doesn't happen without the organization. It doesn't happen without like being in community first. You can't trust someone to hold on to the change that you need if you don't know them. So anyway, meet people, know everybody, figure out everything.
That's definitely something that's not been explicitly said, which is to build community, you meet the people first in a lot of ways. Yeah. So what I've had happen is I say, hey, I'd love you to ask a question to the next person on the podcast. So Mark asked me a question, but after we stopped recording, he said, I want you to hand Khaled this poem, have him read the poem, which is, of course, Mark is a writer, so he handed me a poem. And when you're done reading, I'll ask you the question that he asked. And I'll read this separately. So you don't need to read out loud or anything, just in your own head.
Okay.
So it's called A Litany for Survival.
Yeah. Audre Lorde. Absolutely.
For those of us who live at the shoreline, standing upon the constant edges of decision, crucial and alone. For those of us who cannot indulge the passing dreams of choice, who love in doorways coming and going in the hours between dawns, looking inward and outward at once, before and after, seeking a now that can breed futures. Like bread in our children's mouths, so their dreams will not reflect the death of ours. For those of us who were imprinted with fear, like a faint line in the center of our foreheads, learning to be afraid with our mother's milk. For by this weapon, this illusion of some safety to be found, the heavy-footed hoped to silence us. For all of us, this instant and this triumph, we were never meant to survive. And when the sun rises, we are afraid it might not remain. And when the sun sets, we are afraid it might not rise in the morning. When our stomachs are full, we are afraid of indigestion. When our stomachs are empty, we are afraid we may never eat again. When we are loved, we are afraid love will vanish. When we are alone, we are afraid love will never return. And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard, nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive. So the question Mark posed to me, or to you, and he did know it was you, so maybe this was poignant, but he said, if you were not afraid, what would you do?
What would I do if I were not afraid? Personally, right? If I were a person.
I think take it however you feel. On my initial reaction, I was like, we'll do a crime. I was like, I don't know if I should say that, but whatever.
Wait, what crime would you do?
I'm not going to say that out loud.
We can, fair. None of this is admissible.
Yeah,
or
certainly not.
Yeah, podcasts just can't be admissible.
In Minecraft, in Minecraft. And I am afraid, so there's no crime.
Sure. Yeah. If I were not afraid, this is the weirdest thing to say about an Indianapolis placemaking podcast. I would go home, and not back to Georgia, but to where, like, my father's from Tunisia. I would go back to Tunisia. There are enough factors that would, like, prevent that from happening. But, yeah. But it also has, I'm trying to get a visit going later this year, because I really want my son to go. Like, he's 4 now, but they just love kids there. It's just, like, such a...
All of this sort of, in that sort of space of the world is, like, very family-driven.
Yeah. And, you know, everyone's got their own sick issues, whatever, but just, I tell people this all the time, but like it was like the biggest shock to me. The first time I went, I was a junior in high school. My cousin, she just like, we were in a city that they're not from, a few hours away, and it was just like on I forget where we were, but we were just like near the water, near the Mediterranean, and like we were just sort of like wandering around this city, and there was just this like toddler, maybe like a year and a half, but like walking, moving around a little bit, and just sort of in space. And my cousin just like walked up and she picked up this child who was not hers. She was like 15 at the time, so she just like picks up this child who's not hers and is no relation to her family at all. And I'm so strange, and she just picks it up and she's just like talking to this baby and kissing it on the cheeks and just like fawning over this child. And I was just like, what would happen in the States if this happened? You know, like talking about like building a society that we want or a community that we want or whatever. Like that's like radical trust is like an incredible thing that like when I don't know how old you are. 29. Oh, like your whole life ahead of you.
You're not that. Maybe your skin is lotion, so you
I'm 38. No, it's just a bit that I will. Of course, oldest man in the world.
The other podcast I want to start is called Nearly Dead.
As a 38-year-old,
Well, the idea is that you interview like 30-year-olds.
Yeah.
How they feel like their mind is owner.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Like there's. Yeah, so when I was like a kid, you know, early 80s, early 90s, and all the stranger danger and like panic that I'm assuming kids still grow up with. I've seen the TikToks of people like putting zip ties on their car doors or, you know, like that sort of like mentality is like, I don't know, if you take a step back from it, it get to exist in a different space that's not like that. It's like an incredible pathology that we have here. I desperately want my kid to experience like a childhood like that, like to do whatever. But like, it's also just, I don't know, my Arabic's pretty shit. Like it just is. But like, you know, I pick it up once I'm there. I like, you know, I can get by, I can get in a cab and find my way around. I can buy stuff at a store, but just like everything's just like different. It feels different. Like, I'm sure part of it's like wrapped up in some like deep psychological thing for me of like growing up in a city where there were only 2 Arab people in my school, and the other one was my brother. And so like, you know what I mean? Like that sort of like community and connection that's based on like something there. Remember we talked about the Can and Karas, like I have met enough people in Asia where I have a Karas there. I have a Karas here as well. But just, yeah, I would love to spend a lot of time there. If I wasn't, you know, like if things had worked out differently in some way, I would want to be there? No. Yeah. But again, well, in Indianapolis, it's, you know, 6 months on, 6 months off. I just got to figure out a way to do that.
Become the new executive director, get massive amounts of funding, and then spend half your year.
We'll start at Can, Tunisia.
Correct.
Yeah. Felt that sure, but maybe it's just as nice. My family's in Sfax, but yeah. So Can Sfax campus. I'll just be the director over there. That'll be great.
We accept that. Your words are accepted. If I had to learn a second language, it would be Arabic. I am half Lebanese. I don't know if that.
Oh,
yeah. You didn't even recognize my last name.
I was curious. Zarek?
Yeah, Zarek. It's probably the Americanized version, but it's also where Catholic Lebanese.
Yeah, it's not super.
I don't identify as Arab in any way.
Except for the Lebanese bit.
Yeah. Well, even that was like a very small part, but I really appreciate you sharing what you would do if you were not afraid. I think, though, I really appreciate Mark's open-handedness in his question. What did you think?
Is that right?
I have no idea.
It might be that. If you pronounce it Zarek, it's with a Zarek? Is that what you said? Yeah, it'd be closer to that. Cool. I heard it is Zarek. Yeah. I did though.
I've never been to.
That's about right.
I've never been to type of pronunciation. I would say Zarek. That's what I
do. Yeah. I mean, I said Khaled Khlifi. Yeah. Khaled Khlifi.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
All right. So, what question? I don't have another interview lined up. So you can't even know the name.
Oh my gosh.
What question would you ask the next person?
Yeah. Should
It doesn't have
Did I have a poem? You thought it was a poem?
I think Mark is he's artistic at heart, which obviously you might be as well, but the idea of the question is just to build a tradition and sort of a sense of continuity. So the first question was about Indianapolis. This question is about, it's more esoteric, I think, but don't think too hard about it.
New really weird.
Comes to mind.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think a lot about like class and politics and things like that, and like how art is possible, I suppose, and as like a I don't know, kid who didn't grow up in a very artistic household and then go into a grad school program for a creative art was just like, it's like you know, they're all great writers and like really wonderful people and all that stuff. It's like there's a lot of trust fund kids there. Making art is easier if you have a lot of free time and a lot of means, right? And so we all know this. So my question is like, given infinite time, what would you make? What would you make for yourself? What would you do?
For yourself or for...
What would you make for yourself? What thing would you create for yourself artistically, given the time, given the space?
I love that. Right now I am... reconsidering all my life choices. And I would say for myself, well, every time we did one, I don't think there is no too late. That's something I'm learning, is there is no too late. Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about architecture and public infrastructure and pedestrian infrastructure. And to answer your question for myself, I would say I would create a beautiful space. That serves me.
What do you need to work on?
Start building. Or try. All right. Well, thank you, Khaled. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
I believe we can learn Arabic together. Relearn, I suppose, for you. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Third Space Indie. You can find Khaled and the rest of the Can crew in Windsor Park on the Near East Side of Indianapolis. They have events there going every day of the week. Don't know how they make that happen, but they do. And if you love film, that's the place to check it out. You can also find them on Instagram at Can Cinema, Can spelled with a K. The Can Restaurant also posts on Instagram under Can Restaurant, and they post some gorgeous food. Can't wait to make it over there someday. And of course, if you're interested in reading the show notes for this episode, those can be found at thirdspaceindy.com. You can click through the archive, see all the show notes there, including this one with Khaled Khlifi. You can also sign up to receive those show notes as soon as I send them out at whenever I feel like it sharp on Monday morning. The intro song for Third Space Indie is done by the local artist Jennison. Thank you so much, Jennison, for permission to use your amazing song. I really look forward to sharing the next episode of Third Space Indie with you. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day.